The survey ship Wandering Star drifted through the darkness of space like a small fish in an endless ocean. Captain Jiho sat in his command chair watching the stars through the main window. His crew had been mapping this region for 3 weeks now, and honestly, it was boring work. But someone had to do it. "Captain, I'm getting something strange on the scanner," said Hyun from the navigation station. She was young, only 25, but she had good instincts. "There's an energy reading in Sector 7. Very faint, but it shouldn't be there." Jiho leaned forward. "What kind of energy?" "I don't know. It's not natural. Maybe an old satellite or some space junk." Hyun tapped her screen, trying to get a better reading. "Wait. This can't be right. The object is huge, like really huge." Soman, the ship's engineer, walked over to look at Hyun's screen. She was older than most of the crew, with gray streaks in her hair and oil stains on her uniform. "That's no satellite. Whatever it is, it's at least 5 kilometers long." Jiho felt his heart beat faster. "Take us closer." Slowly. The Wandering Star changed course, moving toward the mysterious object. As they got closer, their screens showed a massive shape floating in the asteroid field. It was covered in ice and rock, looking like just another dead piece of space debris, but the energy signal was definitely coming from inside it. "I'm sending out a scan," said Doyen, the communications officer. He was quiet most of the time, but he was good at his job. "The surface is old. I mean really old. At least 800 years, maybe more. 800 years. That was before humanity joined the Galactic Council. Back then, humans were barely exploring their own solar system. Or at least that's what the history book said. There's metal under all that ice," Soman reported. "And it's shaped like, oh my god. Captain, I think this is a ship." Jiho stood up from his chair. "A ship out here? From which species?" Soman's hand shook as she worked her controls. "That's the thing, Captain. The metal composition matches human designs, but there's no record of any human ship this big ever being built." The crew fell silent. Everyone knew human history. Humanity had joined the galaxy 200 years ago as a weak, struggling species. They had small ships, basic weapons, and they survived only because the Galactic Council allowed them to exist. Humans were nothing special in the grand scheme of things. "Maybe it's a colony ship that got lost," Hyun suggested. "Colony ships don't give off energy readings," Jiho said. "Whatever this is, part of it is still active. Salmon, get us a docking position. We're going inside." The Wandering Star moved carefully through the asteroid field until it found a clear spot on the massive derelict. Up close, it was even more impressive. The ship was enormous, covered in layers of cosmic dust and frozen gases. But underneath, Jiho could see the shape of a vessel designed for war. The crew put on their spacesuits and gathered in the airlock. Jiho led the way with Soman and Doyen following behind. They crossed from their small ship to the giant derelict using magnetic boots. Finding an entrance took 20 minutes. When they finally did, Soman used a laser torch to cut through the frozen door. It opened with a hiss of escaping air that had been trapped for centuries. Inside, everything was dark. Their helmet lights cut through the blackness, revealing a corridor that stretched far into the distance. The walls were covered in frost, but Jiho could see writing on them. Korean letters. And English, too. Cheondungye Simpan, Hyun read out loud. "Judgment of Thunder." That's the ship's name. They moved deeper inside, their boots clanging on the metal floor. The ship was dead silent except for the sound of their breathing. Every room they passed was frozen and empty. But the design was clearly human. Everything from the door handles to the control panels looked like they were made for human hands. "This doesn't make sense," Doyen said. "We've never built anything like this. Our biggest warship is maybe 1 kilometer long. This thing is 5 times that size." Soman stopped at a wall panel and brushed away the ice. "Look at this power conduit. The design is incredibly advanced. More advanced than what we use now." They found the bridge after another 15 minutes of walking. It was a massive room with dozens of stations, all covered in frost. In the center was a command chair that looked out over them all. Jiho walked up to it slowly, almost afraid to touch anything. "Try to find the computer core," he told Soman. "Maybe we can access the ship's logs." While Soman worked, Jiho explored the bridge. He found lockers containing old spacesuits. They were human-sized, human-shaped. On one wall was a large screen, frozen and dark. Below it was a plaque with words engraved in metal. "To those who come after us," Jiho read out loud. "May you never need what we have become." "Captain, I found something," Soman called out. She was at one of the control stations, her tablet connected to the ancient systems. There's still power in the main core. Just a tiny amount, but it's there. And it's trying to connect to something. Connect to what? I don't know. It's like the ship is looking for a specific signal or a person. Soman looked up at him with wide eyes. Captain, you should try touching the command chair. I think it might respond to you. Jiho hesitated. This was stupid. This was dangerous. But his curiosity was stronger than his fear. He reached out and placed his hand on the arm of the chair. Nothing happened for a moment. Then suddenly, lights began to flicker on across the bridge. Red emergency lights bathed everything in a dark glow. The screen in front of the command chair buzzed and came to life. What did you do? Hyun shouted. I don't know. Jiho pulled his hand back, but the lights kept coming on. Systems all around the bridge were waking up one by one. Then, in the center of the bridge, something began to appear. It was faint at first, just a shimmer in the air. But it grew stronger, taking shape. It was a hologram of a man in a military uniform. He looked about 50 years old, with stern features and gray hair cut short. The hologram looked around the bridge with confusion. Then his eyes settled on Jiho and the crew. Identify yourself, the hologram said in Korean. His voice was rough, like he hadn't spoken in a very long time. Jiho found his voice. I'm Captain Jiho of the survey vessel Wandering Star. Who are you? The hologram's expression changed. He looked relieved and sad at the same time. I am Admiral Tae-young, commander of the siege fleet vessel Judgment of Thunder. My consciousness was preserved in the ship's computer core in case anyone ever found us. He paused, studying Jiho's face. You're human. You're wearing a modern spacesuit with current technology. That means... His voice trailed off. Means what? Jiho asked. Admiral Tae-young's hologram smiled, but it was a sad smile. It means humanity survived. Thank God. I was afraid the purge killed everyone. He looked directly at Jiho. Tell me, Captain, what year is it? And what happened after we made our last stand? Jiho stared at the hologram of Admiral Tae-young. His mind was racing with questions, but he managed to answer. It's the year 2847. Humanity has been part of the Galactic Council for 200 years. The Admiral's face showed relief. 200 years of peace, good. That means Protocol Ember worked. He walked across the bridge, his holographic form passing through the frozen stations. But I need to know something, Captain. What do your history books say about the years before humanity joined the Council? They say we were exploring our local systems, Jiho replied. That we met the Council peacefully and agreed to join them. That we were lucky they accepted us, Tae-young laughed, but it was a bitter sound. Lucky? Is that what they told you? He shook his head. Captain, your history books are lying. Or rather, they're only telling part of the truth. Hyun stepped forward. What do you mean? The Admiral gestured around the massive bridge. 800 years ago, humanity wasn't a weak species begging to join the galaxy. We had colonized over 200 worlds. Our fleet numbered in the thousands. We built ships like this one, weapons that made the other species afraid of us. Soman gasped. That's impossible. We don't have that kind of technology even now. You don't have it because it was taken from you, Tae-young said. When humanity expanded into the galaxy, we were different from the other species. We innovated fast. We adapted faster. Within 500 years of leaving Earth, we were already matching civilizations that had been in space for 10,000 years. Jiho felt dizzy. But why don't we know about this? Because the Galactic Council was terrified, the Admiral explained. They saw how quickly humans grew strong, and they knew that in another 1,000 years humanity would be the dominant power in the galaxy. So they decided to stop us before we became unstoppable. Doyen's voice was quiet. The purge, you mentioned a purge. Tae-young's hologram flickered, showing his anger. 800 years ago, the Galactic Council declared humanity a threat to galactic peace. They sent a combined fleet of over 10,000 warships to human space. The Vrexians led the attack. They hit us fast and hard, targeting our colonies first. We fought back, he continued. God, we fought back with everything we had. Ships like the Judgment of Thunder were part of our last defense. We called it the Siege Fleet. 12 vessels, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy an entire enemy fleet. For 3 years, we held them off. Jiho sat down in the command chair, trying to process this information. But we lost. We were losing, Tae-young corrected. We killed thousands of their ships, but they kept coming. They outnumbered us 50-1. Our colonies were burning. Earth itself was under siege. He paused, his expression pained. That's when our leaders made the hardest choice in human history. Protocol Ember, Soman whispered. The Admiral nodded. Protocol Ember. We couldn't win, but we could survive. Our government made a deal with the Council. In exchange for letting some humans live, we would destroy our fleet, abandon our colonies, and erase all records of our military strength. We would make ourselves appear weak, harmless, no threat to anyone. The siege fleet was ordered to jump to dead space and shut down, Taeyong said. We were to be forgotten. Our crews. Most of them chose to die with their ships rather than live in a galaxy where humanity had been defeated. I stayed behind as a digital consciousness, hoping that someday someone would find us and learn the truth. The bridge was silent except for the hum of awakening systems. Jiho felt anger building inside him. 200 years of being treated like children, like humanity was lucky just to exist, and all that time they had been lied to. Why are you telling us this now? Hyun asked. Because you need to know, Taeyong said, and because the danger isn't over. The Vrexians never stopped watching humanity. They're waiting for any sign that humans might remember what they once were. If they knew you found this ship. As if on cue, alarms started blaring throughout the bridge. Doyen rushed to the communications station. Captain, I'm picking up multiple ships approaching our position. They're Vrexian military vessels. Jiho jumped to his feet. How many? 5, no, 8 contacts. They're closing fast. Doyen worked frantically at the controls. They're broadcasting on all channels, demanding we identify ourselves. Soman ran her hands through her hair. They must have detected the energy surge when the ship powered on. Captain, what do we do? Jiho's mind raced. They were a tiny survey ship. 8 Vrexian warships could destroy them in seconds, but running might look suspicious. Respond to their hail. Tell them we're conducting a routine survey and we accidentally activated an old derelict. Doyen sent the message. The response came back quickly. They're not buying it, Captain. They're ordering us to leave the area immediately and surrender all data we've collected. Admiral Taeyong's hologram moved closer to Jiho. Captain, you have a choice to make. You can leave this ship, report it to your superiors, and watch as humanity hands it over to the Council to avoid conflict. Or you can stay and help me wake this ship up fully. Wake it up? The ship has been dead for 800 years. Not dead, Taeyong corrected. Sleeping. The main reactor is still good. The weapon systems are intact. The armor can regenerate. Everything is here, waiting to be used again. But it needs time, at least 72 hours to bring all systems online. Soman looked at the Admiral. And if we try? If we stay here? Then those Vrexian ships will try to stop you. They'll see you as a threat. They might even try to destroy the Judgment of Thunder to keep it from being recovered. Jiho looked at his crew. Hyun was scared but determined. Doyen looked worried. Soman had fire in her eyes. They were just scientists and explorers, but they were also human. I need to contact Earth, Jiho said. They need to know about this. There's no time, Taeyong replied. The Vrexians are already moving. They'll be here in less than 2 days. You need to decide now, Captain. More alarms sounded. Doyen shouted from his station. Captain! A second wave of ships just appeared on scanners. This time it's a Vrexian command vessel. They're not here to ask questions. They're here to take the derelict by force. Jiho closed his eyes. He thought about humanity, living for 2 centuries as a minor species. He thought about all the times he'd seen Vrexian ships ordering human vessels around, treating them like children. He thought about the lie that his entire civilization had been built on. He opened his eyes and looked at Admiral Taeyong. How fast can you bring the weapons online? The Admiral smiled. Some systems can be ready in 48 hours. Not everything, but enough. Enough for what? Enough to give those Vrexian ships a very nasty surprise, Taeyong said. Enough to remind the galaxy what happens when you corner humanity. Jiho turned to his crew. Get back to the Wandering Star. Contact Earth and tell them everything. Send them our location and all the data we've collected. What about you, Captain? Hyun asked. I'm staying here, Jiho said. Someone needs to help the Admiral bring this ship back to life, and I want to be here when the Vrexians arrive. Soman shook her head. If you're staying, I'm staying. You'll need an engineer to help with the reactor. I'm staying too, Doyon added. Someone has to manage communications, Hyun sighed. Well, I'm not leaving without all of you. Besides, someone needs to pilot this beast once it's awake. Admiral Taeyong looked at the crew with something like pride, just like the old days. Humans refusing to back down even when the odds are impossible. He turned to Jiho. Very well, Captain. Let's get to work. We have 48 hours to wake a sleeping giant. Time to show the galaxy that humanity never truly died. We just took a very long nap. The next 40 hours passed in a blur of desperate work. Salmon practically lived in the engine room, fighting with systems that hadn't been used in 8 centuries. The antimatter reactor was still functional, but it needed careful coaxing to wake up properly. One mistake and it could explode, taking half the asteroid field with it. Power at 15%, she reported over the communication system. Her voice was tired but excited. The reactor is responding better than I expected. Whoever designed this thing was a genius. In the weapons control room, Jiho worked alongside Admiral Taeyong's hologram. The ancient weapon systems were slowly coming online. He watched in amazement as screens displayed information about rail cannons, missile systems, and something called a stellar lance. What exactly is a stellar lance? Jiho asked. Taeyong gestured to a display showing a massive weapon running along the ship's spine. It's a focused plasma beam that can reach temperatures found inside a star. At full power, it can cut through a moon. At minimum power, it can core a battleship in seconds. That's insane. That's necessary, the Admiral corrected. When you're outnumbered 100 to 1, you need weapons that can turn the tide quickly. The Judgment of Thunder was designed to fight entire fleets alone. Hyun called from the bridge. Captain, the Vrexian ships are getting closer. They'll be within weapons range in 6 hours. How many ships now? Jiho asked. 15, Hyun replied. They've been calling in reinforcements. I think they know what we're doing. Doyeon's voice came through next. I've been listening to their communications. They're scared, Captain. Really scared. They keep mentioning something called the Siege Fleet in their transmissions. They thought all these ships were destroyed. Admiral Taeyong looked grim. They did destroy most of them. The Judgment of Thunder survived because we went dark before they could track us. But if they're this worried about one ship, it means they remember what we could do. Power at 25%, Soman announced. Main rail cannons are charging. Point defense systems are online. Shields are at 40% capacity. Jiho studied the tactical display. 15 Vrexian destroyers against one ancient human battleship that was barely operational. The odds were not good. Admiral, be honest with me.
Can we win this?
Taeyong was quiet for a moment.
Define win, Captain.
Can we destroy all 15 ships? Probably not at our current power level. Can we make them regret attacking us? Absolutely. Can we survive long enough for human reinforcements to arrive? Maybe. That's not very reassuring. War never is, the Admiral said. But I'll tell you something about Vrexian military doctrine. They rely on overwhelming force and superior numbers. They're not used to fighting enemies that can actually hurt them. When a Vrexian ship takes damage, they panic. Use that. 3 hours later, someone reported that power had reached 35%. It would have to be enough. The Vrexian fleet was now visible on long-range sensors, approaching in a standard attack formation. Jiho sat in the command chair, his hands gripping the armrests. He'd sent a message to Earth hours ago, but there was no way help could arrive in time. Whatever happened in the next hour would happen with just the 4 of them and an ancient AI. All hands to battle stations, he ordered, feeling strange saying words he'd only heard in old movies. Summon, give me everything you've got. Hyun, prepare evasive maneuvers. Doyeon, try to jam their communications if things get bad. The Vrexian fleet stopped 10 kilometers away from the Judgment of Thunder. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then Doyeon received an incoming transmission. They want to talk, he said. Put them through, Jiho ordered. A Vrexian face appeared on the main screen. He looked like a reptile crossed with an insect, with multiple eyes and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. I am Commander Veklar of the Vrexian Imperial Fleet. You are ordered to power down that vessel immediately and surrender yourselves for questioning. Jiho stood up. This is Captain Jiho of the human survey vessel Wandering Star. We are conducting legal salvage operations in unclaimed space. You have no authority here. Veklar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. That vessel is a siege fleet ship. Under Galactic Council law, all siege fleet vessels are to be destroyed on sight. Power down now or we will open fire. The war ended 800 years ago, Jiho said, keeping his voice calm. This ship is human property. If you fire on us, you'll be committing an act of war. Humanity has no military, Veklar replied. You are a client species. You exist because the Council allows it. Do not test our patience, human. Jiho felt anger burning in his chest. 200 years of being talked down to. 200 years of being treated like humanity was lucky just to survive. Admiral, how charged are the rail cannons? 70%, Taeyong replied. Not full power, but enough. Jiho looked back at the screen. Commander Vekler, I'm going to tell you something your ancestors learned the hard way. You don't corner humanity. You don't threaten us. And you definitely don't tell us we exist only because you allow it. Veklar's eyes widened. You dare? Fire Rail Cannon 1, Jiho ordered. The Judgment of Thunder shuddered as the massive weapon discharged. A projectile the size of a bus accelerated to 30% of light speed in less than a second. It crossed the 10 kilometers in an instant and struck a Vrexian destroyer dead center. The effect was devastating. The projectile punched through the destroyer's shields like they weren't even there, tore through the hull and exited out the other side. The ship's reactor went critical a second later, and the destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash. For a moment, nobody moved. The Vrexian fleet seemed frozen in shock. Then Veklar's face appeared again, his expression a mix of fear and rage. You just declared war on the Vrexian Empire, he screamed. No, Jiho said calmly. You declared war 800 years ago when you tried to wipe us out. We're just reminding you how that ended for you. He turned to Taeyong. Fire at will. The ancient battleship came alive. Rail cannons fired in sequence, each shot finding its target with impossible accuracy. Vrexian shields, designed to stop modern weapons, couldn't handle the kinetic force of projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. 3 more destroyers died in the first minute. The Vrexian fleet scattered, trying to surround the Judgment of Thunder. They launched missiles by the hundreds, but the battleship's point defense systems were like nothing in modern warfare. Laser turrets tracked every incoming missile, destroying them kilometers away from the hull. Shields holding at 35%, Salman reported. A few missiles got through, but the armor is handling it. The nanomaterial is already repairing the damage. Hyun threw the massive ship into evasive maneuvers that should have been impossible for something so large. The Judgment of Thunder moved like a fighter craft, dodging and weaving through enemy fire. A Vrexian destroyer got too close, trying to target the ship's engines. Jiho watched on the tactical display as the enemy vessel moved into position. Target that ship with the Stellar Lance, he ordered. Minimum power. Admiral Taeyong worked the controls. Firing. The Stellar Lance was a weapon from nightmares. A beam of superheated plasma shot out from the battleship's spine, so bright it hurt to look at even on the screen. It struck the Vrexian destroyer at the front and carved through the entire length of the ship in 3 seconds. When the beam shut off, the destroyer broke apart, its interior cooked to vapor. The remaining Vrexian ships stopped attacking. They pulled back, clearly terrified. Doyen was listening to their communications. They're calling for retreat. They're saying it's a full siege fleet vessel and they need heavy reinforcements. Jam their communications, Jiho ordered. Don't let them call for help yet. I want them to think about what just happened. For 5 minutes, the battlefield was quiet. 8 Vrexian destroyers remained, floating at a safe distance. 8 out of 15. The Judgment of Thunder had destroyed nearly half their fleet. Then the Vrexian ships turned and jumped to faster-than-light speed, fleeing the battle. Salman laughed in relief. They ran. They actually ran. Doyen was already working. I'm sending out a wideband transmission of the battle. Every ship in this sector will see what happened. Jiho sat back down, his hands shaking with adrenaline. They'd won. Against impossible odds, they'd won. Admiral Taeyong's hologram appeared next to him. Well done, Captain. Your ancestors would be proud. What happens now? Jiho asked. Now? Taeyong smiled. Now the galaxy learns that humanity isn't dead, and more importantly, they learn that we won't be pushed around anymore. He paused. But be ready, Captain. The Vrexians won't forget this. They'll come back with more ships. Many more ships, Jiho nodded. Then we better find the rest of the siege fleet before they do. The recording of the battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, every species in the Galactic Council had seen footage of the ancient human battleship destroying Vrexian destroyers. The reactions were exactly what Admiral Taeyong had predicted. Fear, shock, and anger. Ambassador Yunji stood in the council chambers, facing representatives from 50 different species. The Vrexian ambassador was demanding justice. The others were demanding explanations. All of them were afraid. Ambassador Yunji, said the council, speaker a tall being made of crystalline structures. The Galactic Council demands to know if humanity has been hiding military assets in violation of the Integration Treaty. Yunji kept her face calm, even though her heart was racing. She was 60 years old and had been humanity's ambassador for 20 years. In all that time, she'd never seen the council this agitated. The vessel in question was discovered by accident, she said clearly. It is a derelict from before humanity joined the council. We had no knowledge of its existence until 3 days ago. The Vrexian ambassador slammed his clawed hand on his podium. Lies. That ship destroyed 8 of our vessels. It was fully operational and crewed by trained human military personnel. It was crewed by 4 civilians, Yunji corrected. A survey, captain, an engineer, a navigator, and a communications officer. None of them had any military training. They were defending themselves against an unprovoked attack on a salvage operation. Salvage operation? The Vrexian ambassador's voice dripped with sarcasm. They activated a siege fleet vessel. Do you know what those ships did during the war? Each one destroyed hundreds of our ships. The war you started, Yunji said quietly. The war where you tried to exterminate humanity. The chamber erupted in shouts and arguments. The council speaker had to activate the sound dampeners to restore order. Ambassador Yunji, the speaker said, are there more of these ships? This was the critical question. Yunji had spent 2 days reading through classified files that her government had shared with her. The truth about the siege fleet, the truth about Protocol Ember, the truth about what humanity had given up to survive. We don't know, she said honestly. Our records from that time were deliberately destroyed. But if there are more ships out there, they belong to humanity. They are our heritage, and we have the right to recover them. The council cannot allow. The Vrexian ambassador started. Cannot allow what? Yunji interrupted. Cannot allow humanity to defend itself? Cannot allow us to reclaim our own property? Or cannot allow us to stop being afraid of you? The words hung in the air. For 200 years, humans had been careful, polite, and submissive. No ambassador had ever spoken so directly to the council. In a private meeting room on Earth, President Dongyun was making an even bigger decision. His advisors were arguing loudly around the conference table. We should hand over the ship, said one general. We can't fight the entire council. We should hide it, said another. Pretend it was destroyed and keep it secret. Donghyun listened to them all, but his mind was already made up. He'd read the files about Protocol Ember. He'd learned how humanity's ancestors had sacrificed everything to give their descendants a chance to survive. They'd erased their own legacy, made themselves appear weak, also that human children could live. But keeping that secret had come with a cost. 200 years of living as a lesser species. 200 years of Vrexian ships treating human vessels like toys. 200 years of watching other species expand while humanity stayed small and afraid. We're not hiding it, Dongyun said quietly. All the arguing stopped. And we're not giving it away. Mr. President, someone started. We're going to tell our people the truth, he continued. All of it. What we were, what was done to us, what we gave up. And then we're going to let them decide who we want to be going forward. That could start a war, an advisor warned. Maybe, Donghyun said. But I'm tired of living in a cage built by our enemies. I'm tired of pretending we're lucky just to exist. Our ancestors fought for us, they died for us. The least we can do is honor their memory by refusing to be afraid anymore. The broadcast went out 2 days later. President Donghyun appeared on every screen across human space. Billions of people stopped what they were doing to listen. He told them everything. The colonies humanity once had. The fleet that protected them. The war that nearly destroyed them. Protocol Ember, and the terrible choice their ancestors made. The 800 years of hidden history. People cried as they watched. Some with rage, some with grief, many with pride. They learned that their ancestors hadn't been weak. They'd been heroes who sacrificed everything, even their own legacy, to save their children. For 200 years we've lived quietly, Dongyun said. We've been careful. We've been grateful to the council for allowing us to exist. But that ends today. Today we remember who we are. Today we reclaim our history. We are not a client species. We are humanity, and we bow to no one. The response from human colonies was immediate and overwhelming. People gathered in the streets, not in protest, but in celebration. For the first time in 200 years, humans stood tall. Back in space, Jiho and his crew were working with Admiral Taeyong to locate the other siege fleet vessels. The Admiral had partial star charts stored in his memory, but 800 years of stellar drift had moved everything. There, Taeyong said, pointing to a location on the map. The Eternal Guardian was supposed to hide near a collapsed moon in the Krashen sector. If it made it there, it might still be intact. That's 2 weeks away at our current speed, Hyun calculated, and we'll be crossing through Vrexian territory. Then we better move fast, Jiho said. Selman, how much power do we have now? 60% and climbing, she reported. The reactor is healing itself just like the armor. I've never seen technology like this. Give me another week and we'll have full power. They departed for the Krashen sector, but they weren't alone. 3 human military ships joined them as escorts, sent by Earth Command. It wasn't much protection, but it was something. The journey was tense. They detected Vrexian scout ships tracking them several times, but none approached. The footage of what the Judgment of Thunder could do had made an impression. When they reached the Krashen sector, they found the collapsed moon exactly where the charts indicated. And buried inside, just as Taeyong had hoped, was another massive ship. The Eternal Guardian was different from the Judgment of Thunder. It was slightly smaller, but covered in more weapons. Where the Judgment of Thunder had been built for direct combat, the Guardian looked like it was designed to defend important positions. Soman led the boarding team. When they reached the bridge and activated the systems, another hologram appeared. This one was a woman with sharp eyes and short-cut hair. I am Fleet Commander Minho, the hologram said. Her voice was crisp and military. If you've woken me up, that means either humanity is in danger or someone found us by accident. Which is it? A little of both, Jiho admitted. He explained everything that had happened. Minho listened carefully, her holographic face showing various emotions. When Jiho finished, she was quiet for a long moment. So humanity survived by forgetting what it was, she finally said. And now you're trying to remember. Good. It's about time. Can you tell us about this ship? Soman asked. The Eternal Guardian was designed to protect civilian populations during the war, Minho explained. It has enough point defense weapons to stop 10,000 missiles at once. Its shields can protect an entire city if necessary, and it carries something special. She smiled. Void mines, weapons that create small gravity wells. Anything caught in one gets crushed like a tin can. How many of these ships are left? Jiho asked. 12 were built. If the Judgment of Thunder and the Guardian survived, others might have too. But finding them won't be easy. Minho pulled up a star chart. And there's something else you need to know. The siege fleet wasn't just defensive. We were humanity's contingency plan. Each ship can operate independently for centuries. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a planet if necessary. That information sat heavy in the room. These weren't just warships. They were doomsday weapons built by people who knew they were losing but refused to go quietly. Doyen's voice came over the communication system. Urgent. Captain, we're detecting a large fleet approaching. It's Vrexian, and there's a lot of them. Jiho rushed back to the Judgment of Thunder's bridge. The tactical display showed 50 red dots all heading their way. 50 ships, Hyun said. They're not taking chances this time. Admiral Taeyong studied the display. They're trying to destroy both ships before we can activate the Guardian. Smart. He turned to Jiho. But they don't know about our trump card. What trump card? 2 siege fleet vessels can link their systems together, Taeyong explained. When they do, they share targeting data, coordinate their shields, and multiply their effectiveness. Minho, can you bring your weapons online? The hologram of Fleet Commander Minho appeared on the Judgment of Thunder's bridge. Give me 30 minutes. The Guardian has more power than your ship. We can be ready to fight. Jiho looked at the approaching fleet. 50 Vrexian warships, 2 ancient human battleships, and the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Get ready, he ordered. This is going to be one hell of a fight. The Vrexian fleet arrived in formation, spreading out to surround both human ships, 50 warships against 2 ancient vessels and 3 small escort frigates. On paper, it should have been an easy victory for the Vrexians. Commander Veklar was back, commanding from a massive battle cruiser. His face appeared on the communication screen, his mandibles clicking with confidence. "Captain Jiho," he said, "you cannot win this battle. Surrender now and you will be treated with mercy. Refuse and we will destroy you completely." Jiho stood on the bridge of the Judgment of Thunder, with Admiral Taeyong's hologram beside him. Through the linked systems, he could see Fleet Commander Minho on the Eternal Guardian's bridge. "Commander Veklar," Jiho replied calmly, "you had your chance to leave us alone. You chose to attack. Now you'll learn why your ancestors feared the siege fleet. You have 2 ships against 50, Veklar shouted. "Your arrogance will link the systems," Jiho ordered, cutting off the transmission. Taeyong and Minho worked in perfect coordination, their holograms moving rapidly through control sequences. The 2 ancient ships connected their computer systems, creating a network that had last been used 800 years ago. The effect was immediate. Information flowed between the vessels at incredible speed. The Judgment of Thunder's weapon systems could now access the Guardian's sensor data. The Guardian's shields could draw power from both ships' reactors. Together, they became something far more dangerous than 2 ships fighting separately. "All systems linked," Minho reported. "Weapons at 90% power. Shields synchronized. Point defense network active. Void mines ready for deployment," Taeyong added. "Rail cannons charged. Stellar lance at full power." The Vrexian fleet opened fire first. Hundreds of missiles launched simultaneously, filling space with deadly projectiles. Energy beams from 50 different ships converged on the 2 human vessels. But the siege fleet ships didn't fight like modern warships. The Guardian's point defense system activated, and it was like watching a perfect dance. Thousands of laser turrets tracked every incoming missile, destroying them with precise shots. Not a single missile got within a kilometer of either ship. The energy beams struck the synchronized shields and dispersed harmlessly. The Vrexians were using weapons designed to fight modern vessels. Against shields powered by 2 ancient reactors working together, they were almost useless. "Return fire," Jiho ordered. "Show them what we can do." The Judgment of Thunder fired its rail cannons in rapid sequence. 6 shots, 6 hits. 6 Vrexian destroyers exploded within seconds, their hulls unable to withstand the kinetic impact of relativistic projectiles. The Guardian deployed its void mines. Small spheres shot out from the ship, racing toward the Vrexian fleet. When they reached their targets, they activated. Gravity wells formed around 3 Vrexian ships, crushing them inward. The ships crumpled like paper, their armor and shields useless against the fundamental force of gravity itself. 9 ships down, Hyun reported from the navigation station. 41 remaining. The Vrexian fleet tried to adapt. They split into 3 groups, attempting to attack from multiple angles. But the linked sensor systems tracked every ship perfectly. There was nowhere to hide, no way to surprise the ancient vessels. The stellar lance fired, its brilliant beam cutting across space. It struck a Vrexian battlecruiser and carved it in half. The 2 pieces drifted apart, leaking atmosphere and debris. Salman was watching the power readings from the engine room. "The reactor is handling the load easily. We can keep this up all day." But the Vrexians had numbers on their side. They pressed their attack, focusing fire on the Guardian. The ship's shields flickered under the concentrated assault. "Shields at 60%, Minho reported, redirecting power from the Thunder to compensate." The 2 ships worked together seamlessly. When one needed power, the other provided it. When one was targeted, the other covered it. It was coordination that no modern fleet could match, the product of technology designed specifically for this kind of combat. Doyen was monitoring communications. "The Vrexian ships are arguing with each other. Their commanders can't agree on tactics. Some want to retreat, others want to press the attack." Admiral Taeyong smiled grimly. "That's what happens when you rely on numbers instead of skill. They've forgotten how to fight a real war." The battle continued for another 30 minutes. The Vrexian fleet kept losing ships while the 2 human vessels remained operational. 20 Vrexian ships destroyed, then 25, then 30. Finally, Commander Veklar appeared on the screen again. His confident expression was gone, replaced by fear and fury. "This is impossible," he screamed. "Your ships are ancient. They should be scrap metal." "Maybe you should have destroyed them when you had the chance," Jiho said. 800 years ago, your ancestors tried to wipe out humanity. They failed. You're about to learn the same lesson. The Council will not allow. The Council doesn't get to decide anymore. Jiho interrupted. Fire the Stellar Lance. Full power. Target his command ship. The Stellar Lance charged, drawing power from both reactors. The beam that shot out was twice as bright as before, a line of pure destructive energy that crossed the distance in an instant. Veklar's battlecruiser took the hit directly to the command section. The armor vaporized. The internal structure melted. The ship broke apart in a massive explosion that lit up the entire battlefield. The remaining Vrexian ships stopped fighting. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, they turned and jumped away to faster-than-light speed, fleeing the battle. The bridge of the Judgment of Thunder erupted in cheers. Hyun was laughing. Doyen was crying. Even Somin allowed herself a smile. But Jiho remained focused. Doyen broadcast this battle on all channels. I want every species in the Council to see what happened here. Already done, Captain, Doyen replied. I've been streaming the whole thing. Half the galaxy just watched us defeat a Vrexian fleet. Admiral Taeyong's hologram stood beside Jiho, looking proud. You did well, Captain. Better than well. You've reminded the galaxy that humanity is not to be trifled with. What happens now? Jiho asked. Now? Fleet Commander Minho's hologram appeared. Now the real work begins. The Council will have to respond. They can't ignore what just happened, and you need to find the other siege fleet vessels. Over the next few days, the galaxy changed. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The Vrexians demanded action against humanity, but their words rang hollow after 2 crushing defeats. Other species started speaking up, questioning why humanity had been treated as a lesser species all this time. Ambassador Yoonji negotiated from a position of strength for the first time in her career. She demanded 3 things: recognition of humanity's full sovereignty, reparations for the purge, and a formal apology from the species that had participated in the attack 800 years ago. The Council debated for 3 days. The Vrexians refused at first, but they were alone. Other species had seen the battle recordings. They understood that fighting humanity was no longer worth the cost. Finally, the Council agreed to humanity's terms. It wasn't everything that could be wanted, but it was a start. Humanity was no longer a client species. They were recognized as equals, with all the rights and protections that came with it. President Donghyun gave another broadcast to the human colonies. Our ancestors paid a terrible price to ensure we survived, he said. They gave up their strength, their pride, their very history. But they never gave up hope that one day, humanity would stand tall again. That day is today. Across human space, people celebrated, not because they wanted war, but because they were no longer afraid. The galaxy had seen what happened when you threatened humanity, and the message was clear: never again. Captain Jiho received a promotion to admiral. His mission was to continue searching for the remaining siege fleet vessels, not as weapons of war, but as symbols of humanity's resilience. Each ship represented a story that deserved to be remembered. The Judgment of Thunder and Eternal Guardian remained on active duty, but with primarily human crews. Young people who had grown up believing humanity was weak now volunteered to serve on ships that proved otherwise. One evening, Jiho stood on the bridge of the Judgment of Thunder, looking out at the stars. Admiral Taeyong's hologram appeared beside him. Do you think we'll ever find peace? Jiho asked. Real peace, not just the absence of war? Taeyong was quiet for a moment. Peace isn't something you find, Captain. It's something you build. Your ancestors tried to build it through surrender. That didn't work. Maybe your generation will build it through strength instead. And if the Council comes for us again, then we remind them why they were afraid of humanity in the first place, Taeyong said. But I don't think they will. Fear can be a foundation for peace if both sides are wise enough to avoid conflict. Far away in deep space, sensors detected an energy signature. It was faint but unmistakable. A 3rd siege fleet vessel, its systems flickering to life after 8 centuries of sleep. On its hull, barely visible under the cosmic dust, were the words, Koi Huyi Yagsog, Final Promise. The hunt for humanity's legacy would continue. But the most important discovery had already been made. Humanity had learned the truth about itself. They were not lucky survivors who existed at the mercy of others. They were descendants of people,